Cinder tired now to care where he went. But he couldn't stop himself and slithered into a ditch. Poured down. Help! Help! Cried was covered in coal dust from smoke. Oh! Wailed Percy. Help! Enough!
Some of their brakes snapped and the gear jammed in the sleeper.
And he lathered Duck's face all over to wash Duck's face. Oh! Oh! The van was in
his eyes. The house rocked. Broken glass tinkled. This time, it was worse to come.
Boxes and bags. Oh! Groaned Percy.
Something thudded onto Percy's boiler. Too late. Bump! Straight into Percy. Hard that the loads... He banged the cars hard into the buffers, but the buffers weren't secure. Tried the brakes. The rails were now... This. Too late. The twins left the quarry just in time. Percy came off the rails.
They surged into Sir Ham. At last, a spring gave way. I feel all crooked, cried.
Deal of trouble. No use. Hurrah! Hurrah! Roared the cars.
Peter Sam shut his eyes. Oof, shouted his driver.
Trouble.
Cried the elephant. Water went all over Henry.
Oh! He boasted.
See, both he and the paint pot fell all over Henry. Duck. There'll be trouble. And there was.
Running aground, straight into the sheds.
Ah! You're still attached to Cranky.
But it was too late.
You can't afford to...
You're still attached to Cranky. Stupid lorry was reversing and fell straight into the sea, said the...
But it was too late. Oil splashed every control, and the fat controller landed in a muddy ditch. Bother, bother.
and the rain had weakened the slope. All of a sudden, the tree moved. The car wouldn't move until Gordon forced it. The line of freight cars too fast and too hard. Oh no! Help! Called Toby. Plunged into the ravine. Eight.
Where they were going. Stop! We're still
Engine lost control and plunged. Next, his driver suddenly a large driver, but it could.
derailed. Trucks plunged into the ravine. Too late. He went off the rails at Bulgy's Bridge.
Hey! I am unfinished! Now, Percy!
Oh, sorry, Broods. Bit of a dust-up. Love to stay and clean up. Got to go. Bye now!
That's what I saw in my dream. It's coming true. My universe is starting to crumble.
Oh no, my beach's back!
Left the coal truck behind! Wheels
James!
If I'm going to be any help at all.
How are you?
And dropped the pipes onto the tracks instead of the trucks.
My net is too heavy, Whale! Oh, shivered!
Percy out of sight. When one rock fell, then another, and another. Fog detonators,
But it was too late. Oh no, he cried. Trouble. Ned hadn't lowered his crane arm far enough. It knocked loose the important... The bridge started to crumble. Cinders and ashes, cried Thomas. Jack didn't let go.
Suddenly, his snutter tower.
Duck shouted, but it was too late. Help! Another building at the old mine sank into the ground. Scared, he lurched forward and rammed the freight car. Naughty gnomes, cried Percy.
Hey, James, what's happening? Crash! Bang! Wallop went the... Oh, help, Gordon cried as he slid off the tracks. And into a field.
And coal dust flew everywhere. Oh no! Coughed Percy. He took off, blowing cinders and ashes everywhere. Percy. Yuck!
Ooh, said Bill. Bill huffed, and he wheeshed soot all over Mavis. Bill gasped. So loud and so long that windows broke all his hook. Thomas flew by James.
Suddenly, he felt a big bump. Suddenly, there was a deep rumbling sound. It's hard as the rocks began to fall. But Fergus was covered in rocks right up to his funnel. He dangled. Which crashed through a pipe. Squashed fruit flew everywhere. There was a loud crash. The brake van. That could have been a little smoother. Whoa! The troublesome trucks were delighted. Wait! The statue flew through the air and landed in the lake. Then, as Gordon steamed across the bridge, it came loose and wrapped around his firebox. The snowdrift. The old wooden bridge was, but the cracks in the supports were getting larger. A beam snapped. Timber pieces splashed into the water below. Oh, shouted Duncan. It's dangerous. Straight into Percy, and the bunting flew
To the road. Percy! Trevor was so surprised his trailer bumped into a pile.
cinders and ashes. James's face was soon. Coal tumbled out of the coal flew out. The coach's road was. Trucks hurtled into a siding. They biffed and bashed the buffers.
fell all over the track. But Percy...
And they splashed into the duck pond. Emily was covered in snow. Yuck!
To the trucks, a big cloud of stone whooshed down and landed right on top. He bumped into a truck. The truck rolled into a lever. Things puffed. Coal poured out everywhere. It poured onto the tracks and all over Gordon, James and Emily. This funnel, coal dust shot into the air. It covered the Fat Controller and the railway. Big bump. The eggs were breaking.
Very bumpy. And some of the fish were shaking loose. Yuck! Oops, said Thomas. Sorry.
She didn't notice the huge white tarpaulin. It fell, covering her from...
Fling broke. Thomas shot forward. Cocoa powder flew everywhere.
Thomas clipped the telegraph pole and they all came off the... He gave them an extra big shunt. The wind howled down the tracks. Weeds. It ripped off roofs and flattened fences. Even blew Gordon's tent away. Then there was trouble. The truck's an extra hard shunt. Paint pots flew into the air and splattered down. He gave him a bump. Soon the diesels and the steamies were biffing and banging and being bumped all over the island. Suddenly, they started to come off the track. Some of them headed straight for the water tower. The water tower creaked and wobbled. Then it started to tip. The water tower crashed down across the runway.
And the coach crashed in. First, one rock fell. Then another rock. Soon, lots of rocks came tumbling down.
Until it was too late. Luckily, no one was hurt. But it was too late. It rolled onto the track.
There was another loud crash. It was Toby.
There was trouble. The trucks bumped into the back of Thomas and the coal spilled all over the track. He dropped a large crate of melons. Lincoln pushed his way through the barrier. And suddenly, the roof collapsed behind, bashed the trucks, and they crashed and smashed through the boards into the snow. Too late.
Cars out of the way and rolled up under the chute himself.
Biffed the truck very hard. Bed bumped into the air. The bell tumbled off the flatbed and rolled down the hill. Clang, clang, boing went the bell as it fell and branch snapped and the bell fell.
The flatbed crashed into the buffers and then splashed into the canal. Aeus raced right off the track. He bumped straight into the back of Toby. and biffed into the buffers. Sticky taffy splattered everywhere. The sides of the freight cars collapsed. Steel pipes toppled all over the truck. Gordon hit the pipes with a loud crunch.
Bang! Skarloey jumped. His trucks hit the buffers and bright white flour flew everywhere. Logs broke free at the forest mill. They rumbled and tumbled. The log hit Skarloey with a great big boof.
Very overgrown.
Was trouble. Earth and stones tumbled down the bank and blocked Thomas's track. Cinders and ashes, cried Thomas, but he forward into the landslide. But couldn't stop in time.
Skarloey's flatbed biffed into the sidings and came off the He backed into a stack of roofing slate and smacked. Ned Oliver's giant scissor claw grabbed the top of the wall. Kittens with his scoop, and just in time.
Meta.
Bump Max. Ow, cried Max. You back. Before they knew it, they skidded off the track and into a ditch. Watch out, shouted Alfie. But it was too late. Max broke the water supply pipe. Water gushed everywhere. Suddenly, Alfie was sinking into a muddy hole. He's called Oliver. Swung his wrecking ball as hard as he could. Your wrecking ball. Ned swung with all his might. But it was too late. Oliver and Thomas watched in amazement. Oops, said Ned. Hooray! Cheered the workmen. Ouch, said Oliver. Monty and Monty crashed into the lightning tree.
Stones tipped out of the trucks, covered in coal dust. He biffed right into his lucky, gave him a mighty biff. Hector sent Hector rolling backwards into a set of buffers. Hector crashed off the... He bashed into the barrier and the light surprised. He jumped and biffed into his trucks. Rusty jumped and he biffed his trucks. Randall biffed his trucks in surprise. Flour flew up into the air like a great white cloud. You look like a ghost. Sam shot forward. He bashed into his flatbed so hard they burst through the buffers, smashed through oil drums stacked on the wharf, and splashed into the canal. There was trouble. He heard a loud Toby splash through the puddle, Henry S. into the bucket. The fish shot into the air. Oh no! Sir. Oh no! Thomas bumped into Bert. The stinky cheese shot into the air and splattered down all over Thomas, Bert, and Harry. Now, they crashed through a snowbank. The mud sprayed all over and the bicycle toppled off the flat.
Has heard a mighty crack. Part of the bridge in front of him came away from the rocks. A large piece of the broken bridge fell down into the ravine below. The last part of the bridge groaned and swung over the deep ravine. Crashed into the tower. As the tower crashed to the ground, Thomas crashed straight through the block tunnel. With a mighty splash, Thomas landed in a pool of water. Bump! Thomas slithered to a stop at the bottom of the hill.
He hit the buffers. They'll cut even deeper through. The Magnificent pushed as hard as she could into a big puddle of tracked to sink. Emily was stuck.
Crashed to the ground.
He was. It bashed into Emily. See. The cream churns bashed into Diesel. Stone poured down from the down and biffed into Mavis, who came off the rails. Thomas and Diesel smashed Harry and Bert right
Straight into them.
flatbed. But Thomas's were big bump. More of the special blocks bounced up. With a clang and a crash, Thomas clanked off the rails. His flatbed bashed his buffers with a bump. The last of the special blocks, Scarloey crashed into Duncan's truck, into Rusty's trucks.
Too late. Scarloey crashed into Duncan's car. Scarloey bashed into Rusty's cars. And with a splash, a sploosh, and a splosh, Scarloey has a streak of silver.
Gosh!
Cars. Pity barrel. Scrunch and a crunch. The worse he wobbled. More pattered and scattered from Hero's engine. Thomas! A crack. The track snapped. It cracked. Car skidded and he ditched. Matt's car skid into a haystack. Mavis hadn't lined up her freight cars under the hopper. He braked. The freight cars bounced high in the air. They crashed and bashed. They clattered and shattered down.
Oh no!
Rocky Edward had crashed straight into the flash. Hit a big green button. That made Spencer shudder into the air. Up Henry's coal, right in front of James. He blew the biggest puff.
Splat! Splash! Swoosh!
And Thomas